The Super Nintendo CD add-on never came out for the Super Nintendo, so today I'm going to talk about the development, history, and legacy of the Super Nintendo CD. Snes CD refers to an unreleased video game media format and peripheral for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The device and format were built upon the functionality of a cartridge-based Super Nintendo by adding support for higher capacity compact devices. Development of the format started in 1988 when Nintendo signed a deal with Sony to produce a CD-ROM add-on for the Super Nintendo. After several years of development, Sony introduced a standalone console in 1991 Consumer Electronics Show called the PlayStation. The system will be compatible with existing SNES titles as well as release titles for the Super Nintendo CD format. However, due to license disagreements with Sony and Nintendo then announced that they would have a format alliance with Sony's rival Philips to produce a SNES CD add-on. The partnership with Philips did not produce a CD add-on on Super Nintendo. Eventually, Sony dropped its partnership with Nintendo and development on its own console independently, which resulted in the release of the original PlayStation. The chief competitor was SNES's cartridge-based successor, N64. The Sony-Nintendo relationship started when Sony engineer Ken Kutaragi became interested in working with video games after seeing his daughter playing games on Nintendo's Famicom video game console. He took on a contract at Sony for developing hardware that would drive an audio subsystem of Nintendo's next console, the Super Nintendo. Kutaragi secretly developed a chip known as the Sony SPC700. As Sony was uninterested in the video games business, most of its superiors did not approve of the project, but Kutaragi found support in Sony executive Nora Uga, and the project was allowed to continue. The success of the project spurred Nintendo to enter the partnership with Sony to develop both a CD-ROM add-on for the Super Nintendo and a Sony-based band console that will play both SNES games and as well titles released as a Super Nintendo CD format. However, the two companies conflicted over control of licensing. Under their agreement, Sony would develop to retain control of the SNES CD disc format, effectively ceding a large amount of control over software licensing to Sony. To counter this, Nintendo President Yamauchi sent Nintendo of America President Atura and executive Howard Lincoln to Nintendo to negotiate a favorable deal with Philips, Sony's industrial rival. In June 1991, Consumer Electronics Show, Sony announced a compatible cartridge CD console, the PlayStation. The next day, Sony revealed the partnership with Philips via a surprise announcement at the show. About 200 prototypes for the PlayStation had been created, and the software of the two systems had been developed as Sony and Nintendo attempted to sort their differences. In 1992, a deal was reaching allowing Sony to produce SNES-compatible hardware, with Nintendo retaining control over the profit over the games, but the two organizations never repaired the rift between them. By the next year, Sony had refocused its efforts on developing its own console for the next generation. After the original deal with Sony fell through, Nintendo continued its partnership with Philips. A deal produced a few games featuring Nintendo's characters for Philips CDI multimedia device, but never resulted in a CD-ROM add-on for the Super Nintendo. The CDI itself was pegged as a commercial failure. Ken Kutaragi and Sony continued to develop their own console and released a PlayStation in 1994. The CD-based console was successful, competed with Nintendo's cartridge-based console, the Nintendo 64. The broken partnership with Sony had been cited as an error on Nintendo's part, effectively creating a formidable rival in the video game market. Nintendo would not release an optical disc-based console until the release of the GameCube in 2001. The only thing Nintendo really got out of this was the knowledge about the CD-ROM add-ons with any video game console. Like I said, the only time Nintendo first used it was with the GameCube in 2001, besides this Nintendo 64 DD. Sony got the knowledge of the video game industry, which they made the PlayStation 2, 3, and the 4, which were all huge successes. And that's it for the SNES Effect. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video, comment, share this video, and just make sure to subscribe for more SNES related video, retro or modern gaming videos. So I'll check you guys out later. The previous video was brought to you by Apex Minecraft Hosting. For the best service for the best price, make sure to check out the link in the description.